I'd like to open tonight's meeting of the Queensbury Zoning Board of Appeals, Wednesday, April 21st, 2020, or 2021, excuse me. If you haven't been here before, our procedure is rather simple. We'll call each applicant up to the podium. We'll read the application into the record, allow the applicant to present his case, question the applicant. If a public hearing has been announced, then we'll open the public hearing, take input from the public. They can either do it in person or call us at 761-8225. And then at that time, then we'll close the public hearing. I will poll the board, see where we stand, and we'll go from there. So the first thing we have to do, though, is take care of a couple administrative items. So, John, can I get a motion for the minutes of March 17th?
I'll make a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes for March 17th, 2021.
So I have a motion. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Roy, call the vote, please.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mr. Kuehl?
I wasn't here, abstain.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Henkel?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
And also I'll make a motion for the meeting minutes for March 24th, 2021.
So we have a motion. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Jim, call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Kuehl?
Abstain.
Mr. Henkel?
Yes.
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes. So we have an application for an extension of AV5 2020. Tom Hanselman, he was unable to complete construction during the one-year period, so he's asked for an extension.
So I'll make a motion for the extension of AV 5-2020, Mr. Heinzelman, and we're going to give him a year extension till May 2022. 2022.
So we have a motion. Can I have a second,
I'll
please?
second that.
Ron, call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Kuehl?
Yes.
Mr. Henkel?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes. So we have a request to table from Jeffrey Godnick.
And I'll make a motion to table area variance 39-2020 for Mr. Godnick until May 19th, 2021 meeting, with any new information submitted by April 1st of 2021.
He's a little late.
Well, yeah, that's true, it would be.
May 1st, I think, would be. So we have a motion. Can I have a second, please?
I'll-
Roy, call the vote, please.
Mr. Kuehl?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Henkel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes. And so we have an application to table AV7 2021 Victoria 2.
Tucello. I'll make a motion to table area variance 7-2021 for Mrs. Tucello until June 1st of 2021 meeting.
The first June meeting.
The first.
First June meeting of 2021.
So we have a motion. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Jim, call the vote, please.
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Kuehl?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Henkel?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes. So our first application is area variance 14 2021. Robert McCormick, 18 Dark Bay Lane. We've already read part of this into the record, so our reading tonight is going to be abridged.
The applicant proposes a 110 square foot porch addition to the main home and a 116 square foot porch addition also on the main home. The project includes a 500 square foot carport addition to the existing 624 square foot garage and construction of a 1,995 square foot garage with 3 bays. Relief requested is for the size of the garage and a second garage. The relief required is the applicant requests relief for the size of the garage and the second garage in the waterfront residential zone. That's per section 179-5-020 garage. The proposed second garage is to be 1,995 square feet and to be 3 bays. Relief is requested for the second garage greater than 1,100 square feet. The garage was reduced from 3,113 square feet, a car garage.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, John Lepper, nice to see everyone in public. And
Just a second, Chad. So our procedure is the way we used to be. When you're done, please wipe down the podium and the microphone. Is there stuff there? Okay. And then the next person that comes up will have to do the same.
the next
Go ahead,
person
sorry.
that comes up will be Joe Bianchini, the project engineer. I just want to make some preliminary comments, and
Sure.
I'll ask Joe to show you the changes. But based upon the comments of the board at the last meeting, the proposed garage has been substantially reduced in size. So what Rob was hoping for was an 8-bay garage for his car collection, and now what's proposed, as Roy read, is a 3-bay garage. It was over 3,000 square feet, and it's down to the number that was on the agenda was wrong. It's actually 1,995 square feet. It was correct in Laura's staff notes, but it's come down over 1,000 square feet. And the building was moved closer to the driveway, so that Dark Bay Road, so that the driveway is substantially shorter, which was another issue for you, and it's moved closer to the main house as well. It's very well shielded from neighbors, and a garage is in character with the neighborhood. There are plenty of garages in that part of town. But my best argument here is that because this is a 4.7 acre site in a 2-acre zone, this could be subdivided going down the middle of the road so that both parcels would have frontage. I talked to Craig about this. This is not what he wants, but if the variance were denied, he could have 2 principal structures, he'd have to have a kitchen and a bedroom to make it a principal dwelling, and he could have his 3-car garage. So what you're actually voting on tonight is less than what he could have as of right if we did a 2-lot subdivision, because it's a 4.7 acre site. But I think, more important than that to you is that you felt that it was too large, and it's substantially smaller than what came in. But this could be done as a second residence with a 3-car garage. So I want you to consider that as well. So, Joe, if you could just give me the details of what's changed on the site plan and make that up on the screen.
John, geez, you're getting short.
I'm 60 now. You got to remind me a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm Joe Bianchini with ABD Engineers representing Rob McCormick. The McCormick family now lives at 18 Dark Bay Lane. John covered most of it when we were on a Zoom meeting a month ago. We had a little over 3,100 square foot 8-bay garage. The McCormicks have agreed to reduce the size of that from a little over 3,100 down to 1,995 square foot. But we've moved it from the east side. There's a basketball court that you can see that's there, from the east side of the basketball court to the west side of the basketball court, which puts us closer to Dark Bay, which also reduces the amount of pavement we have to do, reduces the stormwater runoff, does a lot of things that good for the site because it's less impact on everything. We're 3 bays. It's a nice looking garage. You can see here, it's fit in with the house and Adirondack type architecture. As John indicated, it's a 4.7 acre parcel. Also should be noted that the McCormicks own 2 parcels just to the west of this that reach a little over a half an acre. So in total, they do own more than 5 acres. The 2 lots to the west are undeveloped, and he doesn't intend to develop them, so there is over 5 acres of land available there. It fits in to that site. It's not in a 15% slope area, but it's right adjacent to the 15%. So we got 3 sides there that are 15%, but right where we've got the garage is less than 15% a slope. We'll just have the garage there. Mr. McCormick's not doing any work in the garage. He has classic automobiles that he'll put in the garage. There's no bathroom. We had a bathroom the last time. We had a well, and we had to have a septic tank and to pump it up to his septic field. Those have all been eliminated from the site. So it's been greatly downsized and reduced in scope. We will add landscaping. There was one comment on the staff comments about possible alternative would be to expand the existing garage. We really can't do that because the only way to expand it would be towards the lake, and drops off quite steeply towards the lake. So you really can't do it there. On the other side is where we have our carport, and the carport will take us just about right to the setback line on that side. So there's no room to expand it, the existing garage. That's why you'd like a new garage on the site. I think that pretty much covers it. John, you want to wrap up some things? I got to write down.
See, he must not be as old as you, John. He didn't remember.
Any questions?
So do we have questions of the applicant? It seems pretty straightforward and quite a change from the original asking. No questions? So a public hearing has been advertised, and so at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing and see if there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this particular application, and invite anybody from the outside that wants to provide input to give us a call at 761-8225, 518-761-8225. Anybody? So we just have to wait for 2 minutes, John. Do we have our timekeeper there? Karen, you keeping time? So John, you had to brave the snowstorm to get over here. Must have been terrible.
We didn't need a reminder that we live in the North Country.
I thought the phone would be ringing off the hook.
Is it plugged in?
Yeah.
It's a long 2 minutes.
So at this particular time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with Jim.
Yeah, I think unfortunately here, I still feel that you're building a garage that's way oversized. It's oversized by over 800 square feet from what the allowances for garages and size. I think that if you're realistic and you look at this garage as proposed here, it'll still hold up to 6 vehicles, you know, on top of the 3 cars that you could store down at the other garage with the carport. So I'm still not in favor of it.
far as the rest of the project goes, I'm in favor of the rest of it.
Michelle?
I agree with Jim. I think it's still too large. It's a nice-looking project, but it's more than I think is needed.
Kathy?
Yeah, I'm kind of not happy about going down this road. It's not size so much, although it is, but it's more like the idea that it's a second garage again. And I think it's getting out of hand, the second garage is, he does have an option, like you said, you could subdivide and have a little guest cottage with the garage. So there are options available. So I think I would not vote in favor at this time.
Ron?
No, I'm in favor of this project the way it is. I think the land supports it. I think the area supports it. We did give a 3-car garage down the road. I do agree with the other board members about the square footage. You know, 41 feet is awful deep. But no, I'd be in favor of the way it's presented.
Roy?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of the project as presented this time. I think it's an improvement over what was there before, or what was projected before. And I don't think having a second residence on close by is a solution. I think it serves to make a crowded situation worse if there were another building there. So I would be in favor of it.
John?
I still think it's a little big. I wish it was a little bit smaller, and I wouldn't mind seeing the bathroom put back in it. I can see where a bathroom would be needed and water would be needed that far from the house. So it's tough. I think the property does warrant a garage of that size. Maybe not quite that big, but like I said, I'd like to see that bathroom back in there and water in there. But I guess I'd be on board with the project as is.
And so the way I look at this is, one, I think the size of the property certainly warrants a second garage. The argument could be made that the garage is a little bit too big, but if you consider the alternative, splitting the property in half just to achieve the second garage, I think that okaying the project as presented is a much better alternative. So I'll vote in favor for the project. So it sounds like we got a 4-3 here. So at this particular time, I'm going to ask Ron for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As per the draft provided by staff, I recommend we approve area variance 14-2021-18 Dark Bay Lane, Robert McCormick. There is not an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood nor a detriment to the nearby properties, as this applicant not only owns this property but neighboring properties. It's a large piece. Feasible alternatives are really limited. They've been considered, and we believe that they're reasonable and we've included the alternatives to minimize the request. We would suggest that the area variance is not really substantial due to the properties that this applicant owns. There is not an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. We could suggest that the difficulty is self-created as this applicant already has 2 garages and a carport on the house. In addition, the board finds that the benefits to the applicant for granting the requested variance would outweigh the resulting detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community. Also, the board finds that the variance request under consideration can be considered the minimum necessary. For that reason, for those reasons, I recommend that we approve area variance 14-2021.
So we have a motion. Could I have a second, please? I'll second. Call the vote, please.
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
No.
Mr. Kuhl?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward?
No.
Mr. Hinkle?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
No.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Congratulations.
Very much.
So our next application is AV 2021, Ron and Ruth Jameson, 94 Hall Road.
The applicant proposes to demo an existing home and garage to construct a new home with a footprint of 2,440 square feet and floor area of 3,478 square feet, which includes attached garage and a covered patio. The project includes associated site work with grading, stormwater controls, and planting. The relief is for setbacks, floor area, and permeability, and that's for the construction of a new home in the waterfront residential zone for section 179-3-040 dimensional requirements. The new home is to be located 17 feet 8 inches from the shoreline where a 50-foot setback is required, and 8 feet 3 inches to the north property line, and 15 feet 8 inches from the south property line where 20 feet is required. Floor area proposed is 23.95%, where 22% is allowed. Now, the criteria for considering an area variance according to Chapter 267 of Town Law, in making the determination, the board shall consider 5 criteria. One is whether an undesirable change would be reproduced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties be created by the granting of this area variance. Staff says that minor impacts to the neighborhood may be anticipated. Number 2, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Feasible alternatives could be achieved by reducing the home size with reduced setback and floor area. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Staff says that the relief requested may be considered moderate relevant to the code. The relief requested is 42.4 inches from the shoreline, 4 feet 4 inches south, and 8 feet 9 inches from the north property line. The floor area relief is 1.95%. 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood district. The project may be considered to have minimal impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the area. Then 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. The difficulty may be considered self-created. The staff comments. The applicant has indicated the new home would allow for an updated home with a garage. The home is in a similar location as the previous home. The plans show the location of the home on the parcel and the elevations. And then the planning board passed a motion, and in its adoption, they said that the planning board, based on its limited review, has identified the following area of concern. One board member expressed concerns about the setback from the lake, but the motion carries 7-0.
So just a quick question, shouldn't we include permeability in here?
Yes,
So did we have permeability?
I think he had it.
Yes.
Okay, then it's not on the staff notes.
Yes, it is.
It is on mine, yeah.
Oh. Huh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening.
So we got to ask you just one person up here at a time.
One at a time. Okay. So for your records, my name is Ethan Hall. I'm the principal with Rosinski Hall Architecture. With me tonight is Ruth Jameson, the owner of the property. Her husband was going to be here tonight, but he's tied up. I give you a brief rundown. I asked Laura to put up the existing building plan, the existing site plan that's there. We're showing that there's a 17-foot, 4-inch setback to the existing stairs that are out in front. And the existing structure is a 1-story, has a very minimal amount of crawl space in the underside of the camp. It's really the area where the heating system is. There is a large drop between, it's labeled as a garage, which is really a misnomer because there's not a modern vehicle today that will fit in it. It's more of a storage area than anything else. and it drops off fairly significantly. It's about a 4-foot drop right behind the house. They have a significant problem with stormwater coming off the roof and going back down into the crawl space and underneath the camp. When they purchased the property, during the property transfer, the effluent chamber had been shown that it was not working, so that was replaced. The existing septic tank is in great shape. They put a new effluent chamber in, and the existing sewage disposal system is working fine. So those are the things that are there now. There's a large slate patio to the north, and the existing setback to the garage on the north is 4 feet 9 inches. So if you can, Laura, can you go down to the proposed? So we're basically trying to set the existing house on the same footprint that the camp is, and then tie the new garage into the existing house. We've set it where it is because of the grades, and we're trying to take that into account for stormwater and things of that nature. One of the issues that came up last night was somebody asked, you know, why can't we move it back? If we move it back, it goes farther uphill. And if we move it back, now we're looking for a height increase, a height variance. So we looked at both scenarios, and we figured we have moved it back. Granted, we've moved it back 4 inches. We've moved it back from the lake, and the part that sticks out, the 17'8", is the edge of the new patio, not the house. So we've actually moved the house farther back from the lake than it currently exists. And we just felt that on the lakefront like this, I'd rather ask for a setback to the lake than a height variance. I've been in front of you several times asking for height variances, trying to avoid that this time. So that's where we're at with this. The permeability, we've actually increased. We've taken away a lot of the patio that was there, the big slate patio. A lot of the walkways have come off. We're adding plantings around the foundations and plantings for buffering between the building and the lake. And we've taken care of a lot of the stormwater issues that were on the lot. So that's where we are with it.
So do we have questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Now, if you did push that back a little bit, how much of a height variance do you think you'd be asking for? Because I think I'd be better off farther away from the lake and ask for a little bit of a height variance than being that close to the lake.
I've not gone that route, John, to be able to know how much I would need.
Because you got 14.6 here with the garage.
Well, it's the very front of the house.
I realize that. You got 24.8.
Yep.
So if you push that back, it's gonna, you know, there's no way of changing the roof line a little bit or something different?
Well, it's a fairly shallow pitch now. We've made this, it's a very contemporary style house. It's what Ron and Ruth came to me with as the design of the house that they were looking for. I'm afraid that if I change it and make it much shallower, our structure to support that roof is going to get, it's already pretty deep. They're already glue lam beams that are 18 inches deep. I'm afraid if I make it much shallower than that, they're going to really blow them out of the water. It's really the 2-on-12 pitch with a standing seam metal roof now. So
there's no way of really telling how much of a height variance you would need if you push that back 10 feet.
If I push it back 10 feet, I'm going up in grade probably 3.5, 4 feet. I'm going to be right at
27, 28.
Yeah, 27, 28 feet. We're going to be right at looking at a variance for that. And I was just trying to keep everything as low at the water as it could.
I understand that, but I'd just like to, you know, it'd be nice to preserve the lake
The
there a
two
little bit.
adjoining properties, one of the questions that came up last night was the two adjoining properties. Do you have the tax map picture that I sent? They asked me to take a look at the tax map and the adjoining properties. If you look at the outline of Glen Lake right where they are, this property kind of sits forward, and it's on almost not a peninsula, I wouldn't say, but it juts out right there. You know what I'm talking about? And it kind of goes back in on the two sides next to it. The camp that is immediately to the south of it was my family's, not my family's, my wife's family's camp. And that actually sits closer to the water than what the Jameson's house does now. And then the one that's to the north of it is Jerry Quantrell. It kind of wraps back around. His house sits back, but the porch is a little closer. So the average of them, I think, Laura, you said the average of those was
46 something.
42 or 46 feet, so the actual setback is the 50-foot setback, not the average of the two. So we're really kind of in line with the rest of the houses that are right in that area. So it's kind of where we wanted to stay, and pulling it back, we're kind of back behind everybody else, and kind of cuts their view down.
And the other question is, since it's being a new project, there's no way of getting more permeability there? It looks like you're adding quite a bit of asphalt here for this new, for the,
Actually, we're not adding,
Yeah, switch back. What?
you asked me to jump back and forth, it was easier when I brought board. The asphalt that is there it comes down to the actual building itself.
Right. No chance of changing that to, I know it's not gonna give you as much, but the permeable pavers?
We could look at, the walkway that goes along the edge of it, John. I think the walkway between the end of the garage and the house, we could do that. There's a walkway just along the north side there. I could probably do that in paver in that spot.
Otherwise, we're looking at 13.83 or something percent.
It's close. It's close. And keep in mind, we're dealing with a 0.3 acre lot here, where your zoning is typically set up for 2 acre lots, and we got a relatively small lot to
Yeah,
start.
you're actually improving permeability from where it is
Correct.
now.
Right.
Correct.
Compared to, but now it's a new project.
New
right?
project, that's right.
But
Otherwise, we wouldn't have to
I'll
look at
interrupt
that.
you, I'm sorry, so
What?
I was incorrect, so because the permeability is increasing, it's getting better, there's no variance required.
Okay, there
Whether
isn't.
it's a new project or not.
Okay.
You were correct.
That was what I thought.
Yeah, I wondered about that, but, okay.
So just the setback variances
Yeah.
and the floor area ratio.
Okay, so no permeability involved in this.
Correct.
Ethan, is there any way to move it back without it affecting the height?
No, because as we move back up the driveway,
Okay.
if I keep it that way, then the driveway's gonna get so steep. It's getting out of that driveway right now is a bit of a challenge for them. So we've tried to maintain it and try to,
Okay.
I've actually done it so that the grade comes down the existing driveway, and then we're gonna kind of go up a little bit to get back in, so that the stormwater doesn't, that's part of the problem now. Stormwater runs down the driveway and into that garage, and it runs kind of through the garage. So
That's not fun.
trying to solve that problem as well.
Are you still gonna keep the crawl space, or are you gonna have a full cellar?
This is going to be a slab on grade, or slab on frost walls. The main floor is not going to go into the lake at all. We had an issue that we had to talk with Dave Hatton about as far as flood elevation of the lake. So we're set at where we need to be for flood elevation.
Now, I know the property to the south there, Johnson, when we discussed that one,
Exactly.
that one's even lower, so there was no way
Yeah,
to do
when
it.
Steve was looking at doing what he wanted to do with that, it was so low, and that was the problem. That was, like I said, that camp was in my wife's family for years, and it's always wet. It's always wet. The good news with this site is that they are up
You're
higher.
perched a little
and
higher.
and it's not, but we don't want to risk trying to put anything into that crawl space. That's the problem they have now. So we wanted to keep everything up, so it will be frost walls with slab on grade, and everything is above the slab.
Other questions?
Yeah, okay, so you're saying that the setback is actually from that little, you're saying it's a newer patio there?
Yes, it's a
And
covered,
that was
covered,
permeable?
covered patio on the north.
And those are permeable pavers, that one? Did I-
Well, it's got, that part has a roof over it,
Oh,
so it wouldn't
okay.
be permeable at all.
All right, so what's the actual setback for the house itself?
That they don't have that number for you off the
It's
top of the head.
17.8 inches.
17 feet 8 inches is to the actual
Okay.
structure that's over that. To the house itself
Oh,
is probably 21 feet, something like that.
okay. To the house, okay, that's what I was wondering.
Right.
I didn't get to see the house, I couldn't find it.
The addresses on Hall Road are a little difficult because Hall Road kind of
Yeah,
weaves its way around and ends all of a sudden.
I needed a 10-point turn to get out of there too, by the way. So I kind of tend to agree, I mean, I understand the engineering issues of it, but I would be more in favor of just a small height variance if we could get anything. And what was the setback on the house again for the two to the side of you?
The one that's to the south of us is actually closer to the water. I don't have the exact numbers because we didn't have it surveyed, we didn't have that part of it surveyed. The one that's to the north of us, we're about equal in the setback because of the way the land drops back into that little bay.
And those are existing older homes, or are they newer homes?
One of them is a camp that has been, I think Steve Johnson converted that a number of years ago to I don't know that it's used as a year-round. In fact, I think that it's used as a rental unit. I think it's like an Airbnb type rental
Have
unit.
they been around, both of them, for a while?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the one to the north, as you can see the way it kind of wraps back around, that one's got a porch that sticks out in front, and that's about the same distance back that we are.
Well, I'm just the kind of person that, you know, if we get an opportunity with a non-conforming, to make it even more conforming if we can.
Yeah.
Because
And
we're-
I tried that with the house to the extent that we could.
Other questions? So public hearing has been advertised, so at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing and invite anybody in the audience who has comment on this project to step forward, and invite anybody from the outside who wants to provide comment on this project to give us a call at 518-761-8225. Anybody in the audience? So we just got to do the 2-minute drill. So I was telling Jim, I took a walk on the other side of the lake today, and it looked like ice was reforming. I don't know.
Really?
Snowing
I
good.
went out on the ice about 4 or 5 days before it went out. I had to take some pictures of one of the houses that we're working on, and I had to get out far enough where I could get out there to do it. I said to the guy, I said, "You don't happen to have a life preserver or something here I can borrow to go out there?"
Don't worry, the hypothermia will get your food.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't know it before I got in.
Wouldn't feel a thing.
Jim, was there a lot of activity on the lake this year?
In the winter?
Yeah.
Yeah, there always is.
Yeah, a lot of ice fishing going on.
Yeah,
and stuff.
pretty busy on the weekends.
Yeah, I figured it probably was. A lot of ice.
Yeah, it was on early this year.
It came up early and it got
Stayed
thick.
on late,
Yeah, it got thick really quick. And somebody said there was like 26 inches of ice
yeah.
in some
Well,
places.
it goes quick, you know, you start to see, a little bit of water on it, and then the next day I walk by and there's,
Sucks down.
regular.
Yep.
So Ethan, was that road named after your family?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, no,
Just a coincidence.
no, yeah, absolute.
I wondered that.
Okay.
Time's up.
Okay, so at this particular time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not in favor of this project. The house could be moved back. It's the applicant's choice to put an attached garage. I think that could be dealt with further on back on a property. To the Johnson's camp, they came and wanted to do like for like a while ago, and we turned them down. I honestly believe that this can be moved back and you could accomplish the house and the dwelling and the garage. So as it's presented, I'm not in favor of it.
Kathy?
I agree. I would be more in favor of a slight height variance than to move it, you know. I'd like to get some distance from the shore, rather than what we have.
Roy?
You know, I'm gonna come down in favor of it. I think, this is consistent with the other properties nearby. I don't think it's that big a request considering what's there already. And, I'd much rather have this than a height variance, so I'd be in favor of this.
John?
They're not asking for too much here. Very small FAR variance, very small on the setbacks, except for the shoreline setback. I mean, if you want to have a garage that's attached to the house, obviously you're going to need a height variance, and it could be substantial. So I got to kind of agree with Roy that I I'd like to see a little bit better on the shoreline, but I can understand what you're trying to do there, so I guess, yeah, I'd be on board with as is.
Jim?
Yeah, I think, like, when we look at the two most recent projects we've done in the immediate vicinity on that side of the lake there, we've tended to move each one of them slightly back from where they were. And I think that, what you've done is a slight move back, but I think there's room for it to move back even further, even though it would take a little bit of engineering, because the garage would be at a slightly higher height back there on the back 40. So at this point in time, my recommendation that I had put down was to move it back 10 feet, and I don't know if you could compromise and move it back 5 feet, but I think a little bit of movement backwards is going to be a big plus, and I think that, this house is very close to the water without much of a buffer, and I think it would benefit by moving it back, so I'm not in favor of it right now.
Michelle?
Well, it's a great-looking property, but I think, in respect to the lake, it really needs to move back. There's an opportunity to improve it. So I would say no at this time.
So the way I look at this is, would we be better off with the new building as opposed to the old building? They're both the same. They would both be the same setback. I assume that there's going to be a new sewer and septic with this.
What's there is functioning perfectly.
So that has
Same-
passed the town.
Yes.
So the vegetation, the control of runoff that you'll do with the next, or with the new home
Yes.
will be a considerable improvement on what we have now. So if you measure what the new property will bring versus what the old property has, it will be a significant improvement. Now, I have to agree that the setback is certainly less than what we'd like, but on the other hand, it's no worse than what we have right now. So I would be in favor of the project, but unfortunately, you're to the negative right now.
So,
So,
I think we would like to
Table
table
it,
it
sure.
and see what we can do to make some modifications. Maybe, as Jim said, we can come up with some kind of a midway in between, that we could maybe move it back a little bit and come up with something. My biggest concern as I'm thinking about it is moving it back. We're moving it closer to where the septic tanks and things like that are, so we were trying to kind of avoid that.
Sure.
But let me take a look at it, and
so how much time do you need to look at it?
we probably resubmit by the 15th of this coming month.
So,
For June.
Keep in mind, I got 8 other ones I gotta come talk to you about.
so we could accommodate this in May?
In June,
June, okay.
In June.
in June.
So John, could we have a motion here?
I'll make a motion to table area variance 21-2021 for Ruth, Ron and Ruth Jameson. We're going to table it till the first meeting of June.
Correct.
First meeting of June with any new information by May 1st,
By May 15th.
May 15th. Okay, always,
All right,
okay.
I'm here.
So we have a motion, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Jim, call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes?
Mr. Kuhl?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Eureka?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes. Okay, our next application is AV 23, 2021, Peter Renizzi, 374 Cleverdale Road. I probably hacked the name up there.
The applicant proposes to rebuild an existing 472 square foot deck area and construct a new 304 square foot expansion to the deck, totaling 776 square feet. The existing two-story home of 1,414 square feet is to remain. The site is an existing permeable walkway from the home to the shoreline. The relief is requested for setbacks and permeability in the waterfront residential zone, and that's per section 179-3-040, dimensional requirements, and 179-13-010, expansion of a non-conforming structure. The new deck is to be located 42 feet from the shoreline where a 50-foot setback is required. The side setback to the north is to be 19 feet where a 20-foot setback is required. The permeability is to be 70.3% where 75% is required. In looking at the criteria, minor to no impacts to the neighborhood may be anticipated. Feasible alternatives may be considered limited due to the location of the existing home. Relief requested may be considered minimal, relevant to the code. Relief is, say, 8 feet from the shoreline and 1 foot from the for the side. The relief permeability is 4.7%. The project may be considered to have minimal to no impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the area, and the difficulty may be considered self-created. The existing, the staff comments, the applicant proposes a new deck on an existing home that is an upper level of the home. The project does not alter the existing conditions under the deck area or area of the shoreline. The plan showed the deck area to be constructed in relation to the home. And the planning board, based on its limited review, passed a motion that did not identify any significant adverse impacts that cannot be mitigated with the current project proposal, and that was passed unanimously on April 20th, 2021.
I didn't notice, did Ethan wipe everything down for you?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Dennis McElroy with Environmental Design, representing Mary and Peter Rienzi, who have the property at 374 Cleverdale Road. The proposal as described is the addition, the replacement of a deck with some additional square footage. This results in setback variance and a slight permeability. If you look at sheet S2, in the dark gray areas is the coverage of the existing deck. The Rienzis have, and by the way, the Rienzis are in the audience tonight as well. The existing deck is the original deck from the 80s. The Rienzis have owned the property since '97. It's necessary to replace that deck for structural reasons. So while going through that process, they thought that it would be timely and request an expansion of that deck. All the area to the north, as shown on the screen, that's sheet S3, in that shaded area, that is basically all within setbacks. There's a 4-foot bump on the lakeside, which increases that, the relief requested in that area. And there's a couple reasons for that from the Rienzi standpoint, between age and health issues. They would like to have more space on that deck area. The patio below is not as usable for them. The main floor is the primary living space. The walkout below is a less actively used space. The expansion of the deck is primarily over existing impermeable, or actually, because they're block pavers, there's a certain permeability to those. So part of that expansion involves new coverage over grass area, and as Queensbury considers decks as impervious, that increases slightly at 161 square feet of new impervious, which is the reason why variance 3, I guess it is, that we've requested is the permeability change. So there's 4 feet on the front side, there's 1 foot in that northeast corner of the deck that exceeds the side yard setback. So those are the 3 variances that are being requested, and be glad to answer any questions.
So do we have questions of the applicant? Looks like it's pretty straightforward. So public hearing has been advertised, so at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if there's anybody in the audience that would like to present information on this particular project, and invite anybody on the outside who has comment to give us a call at 518-761-8225. Anybody?
I have a couple of letters.
Oh, okay. Jeez, I forgot about that the last time. Are you gonna-
I didn't have any.
Oh, okay. You gotta keep me on my
I wanna
toes here.
remind-
This is new to me
I
now.
am keeping you on your toes right now.
Okay.
There's a letter from Anne Marie Mather. We totally support the Renzi deck. And that's, unfortunately, I don't know what address she is. She has a Clifton Park address that was mailed, that she was used to mail to her. And then,
She's an adjacent neighbor.
yeah, you don't know which house.
Three houses north.
Okay, so Mather is 3 houses north. And I have Chris Martin, just a note to let you know I'm fine with the proposed project for the Renzi House on Cleverdale.
Queensbury zoning board of
I'm
appeal.
their
Chris, could you
abutting
hold on for
neighbor
just
to
a
the
second?
south.
I'm reading some information out.
Okay,
Sorry. So we do have input from the public. We have Chris Nowitzki here. So let's see if I can put you on speakerphone. Go ahead, Chris.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. It's good to see everyone at that meeting. I wasn't aware of that, so it'd be easier than calling in, I think. But thank you, Chris Nowitzki, Lake George Waterkeeper. We had some concerns about the requested variances, especially the increase in or the decrease in the permeability within the critical environmental area. In our opinion, the application fails to offer mitigation measures to balance the benefits achieved by the applicant's request to decrease the shoreline setback and the site permeability, which could include the reduction of impervious cover to provide benefits as well as providing stormwater management, or additional shoreline buffering. We do think the variance may produce undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and a decrease in permeability, and the variance to reduce shoreline setbacks supporting additional gathering spaces can be a detriment, have an adverse effect and impact on the environmental conditions. The applicant or our application does not provide any measures to mitigate the requested variances, especially permeability requirements along the shoreline of the lake, and therefore would contribute adverse effects. The pattern of, the walking of a building towards the beach. So we do not support it, and ask the zoning board to deny as prepared. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then 2 minutes? We'll give him just a second.
The point of what we
Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing at this particular time, and I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with Michelle.
I think my biggest concern, and it's not a huge request, is just the, shoreline setback. It appears, from the drawings here that the extension of the porch overhangs the patio underneath, which is already non-permeable. So to me, it's almost a wash. So,
Well, isn't it part of it? Part of it overhangs patio, part of it overhangs grass?
right. So
The
that's what I'm
shoreline side expansion overhangs the patio, existing patio.
So to me, it's kind of a wash, because
Correct.
it's already overhanging, something that's impermeable. So for that reason, I'm in favor.
So you support the project?
Yes, I'm in favor.
So, let's see, Ron? Or excuse me, Kathy?
Can I ask a question? Is the patio?
Wait a minute. So we've closed all the public hearings and that sort of thing. We've asked the questions.
Okay, so then what I would say is, if that patio is old and impervious, I would think it would be a trade-off if that could be replaced with something more impervious, like.
Well, they're
more porous.
permeable block pavers as it is. So it doesn't increase the permeability in those areas, the deck.
No, the deck doesn't, but as a trade-off for the increase in impervious, you are going farther away from the goal of permeability here, and it could even it up. Because you're losing some shoreline as well, but you're really close as it is anyways to the 50s, so, I'd just like to see something done more to avoid having to give this variance for permeability. I can accept the shoreline because I understand the need, but if there's something you could do in terms of mitigation. So as it is, I guess I'm saying I'm not in favor unless some more mitigation can be
Okay.
put in place.
Ron?
I look at this and it appears that they have pavers already. I don't know where they could pick up any permeability. I think it's a minimal request. I mean, they're looking for what, 4 feet additional of what they have towards the lake. So I'd be in favor of it the way it's presented.
So Roy?
Yeah, I agree with Ron. I'd be in favor of the project as he explained.
John?
I have a little bit of a problem. I have no problem with the side setback that they've got there extending the deck. With them having a nice deck over their dock, there's not many like that there, that they've got plenty of use of the, and view of the lake. They don't really need to extend that deck anymore, I would say, towards the lake. And they've already got a patio that's usable downstairs that can be used. So I would say and they could actually do away with that concrete pad that they have going into their garage, which would give them better permeability. So I'm not in favor as is.
Jim?
Yeah, the permeability pretty much already exists due to the patio being beneath the deck on the lake side as proposed in this project. No significant change is going to result if we approve it, but I think we should consider, if we're going to do that, if we're going to allow this upgrade, that there should be some vegetation placed on the shoreline there. And I think, Dennis, you could probably come up with a plan that would be in the interest of everybody. It's kind of a stark contrast with the neighboring sidewise properties, without any trees out in front, things like that. I know people prefer to have an unobstructed view of the lake, but I think it's important if you're a waterfront property owner that you observe the fact that we're trying to improve the situation.
So if we conditioned this request, you'd be in favor of it?
Yeah, if there was a vegetative plan proposed, and that could be done with the planning board.
Chairman, I would agree with him that that's the kind of mitigation measure that would make me happy.
So you're going to change if we condition
No, I
this?
asked for mitigation, and that's
Okay.
a good choice of landscaping.
And so with a condition that we provide some landscaping to collect runoff to make up for the permeability loss, I would okay this also.
You have one more person to ask.
Oh, Michelle. So, I got too many M's here. I'm messed up. Michelle, what's your?
Yeah, we started with her.
You started with her.
Oh, I started with her.
Yeah.
Who did I miss then?
Nobody.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Yeah, all right. So,
How many people you want to trust?
yeah, I know, I'm losing it here. So I'm going to ask Kathy, you for the motion, and then you can configure the condition the way that you'd be happy with.
So I got to move and wordsmith, all right, let's see. I did not bring my glasses, okay. So.
You want some readers?
I honestly, seriously will take them, thank you. I left mine in the car. Thank you. Okay. So we, the board, move to approve area variance 23/2021 for applicant Peter Renzi. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly again. We find that there will not be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. We've had input that actually be some improvement to the aesthetics. Feasible alternatives are limited and have been considered by the board to include the minimum request, and they're not possible. The requested variance is not substantial. They're looking at increasing their existing shoreline setback by only 4 feet. And we're going to discuss permeability. They're looking for a very slight decrease in permeability, but we will hopefully mitigate that. There is not an adverse impact on the physical environmental conditions of the neighborhood of the district, provided the mitigation is a positive. I'm going to have to, qualify that. The alleged difficulty is definitely self-created. They have a need that's not allowed by zoning. In addition, the board finds that the benefit to the applicant from granting the requested variance would outweigh the resulting detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and community. The board does find that the variance under request is a minimal necessary. The board also proposes the following condition, that the applicant consider as vegetation to control erosion and runoff, some sort of landscaping that will mitigate some of the requested permeability. Do we want to?
I would just make the recommendation that the addition, you look at the adjacent properties, look at the trees that are out in front of those properties as opposed to this property, and make it the same,
Well, couldn't we go better and get some, like rain garden in there?
Well, I think to supplement some of the existing vegetation is you see the house to the north, the property to the north. That house is out on and even over the shoreline. So that's not a good representation, but that's what the neighborhood to the north is in that case. So I think by maybe supplementing some of the parking to the north side, where that north deck is the new impermeable area, that we would supplement it in that location. I think that would be appropriate, because otherwise they have a nice tiered effect there of existing vegetation, but we can supplement it off from the north side. I think it's appropriate to achieve what you were suggesting.
Since we haven't voted on this, are we able to play with the words and?
Well, you're doing the motion, so
okay.
you're the wordsmith.
So go backwards, take it all out and put back in.
Okay.
Something to the effect of a combination of practices, whether it's removement of some impervious pavement and additional landscaping for erosion and sediment control to help with the permeability on the site would.
On the north side of the property.
On the north side of the property, okay, all right, so that sounds good enough. Okay, so I propose that we, with this condition in place, that we approve this variance request.
So we have a motion, could I have a second, please?
I'll second it, Mr.
Ron, call the vote, please.
Prior to you calling the vote, I just want to confirm that usually the top part of the resolution is also read, and that you would like to have that included as part of the resolution. And that means that typically you put in the relief being requested, you usually read,
Oh, okay.
which is fine, you don't have to read it, I just want to
Just say
confirm.
per staff notes.
Oh, per staff notes, the requested relief is for, hold on, I have to go back and see if I'm on the right.
Just say per staff notes. They
Per
have,
staff notes.
And that's it.
relief
That's all right.
granted.
Okay, thank you.
call the vote, please.
Mr. Hankel?
No.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhl?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes,
Mr. Eureka?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Congratulations, you got a project.
I already cleaned up.
So our next application is Paul Lorenz, 78 Quaker Road, AV 24, 2021.
The applicant proposes a 240 square foot shed to be placed on the property. The existing commercial building of 4,079 square feet will remain. The site and building's use remains the same, auto fix. The site plan for installation of a shed is on a commercial property, relief requested for setbacks. The applicant is requesting relief for setbacks to install a shed per section 179-3-040 dimensional requirements and 179-5-020 sheds. The shed is to be located 10 feet from the property line where a 25-foot setback is required. Looking at the criteria, minor to no impacts to the neighborhood may be anticipated. Feasible alternatives appear to be limited as the lot is a corner lot in the shape of the parcel. The relief requested may be considered moderate relevant to the code. The relief is requested for a side setback of 15 feet. Minor impacts on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood may be anticipated, and the difficulty may be considered self-created. Staff comments. The applicant proposes to place a shed on the property that does not meet setbacks. The applicant has indicated the shed location is due to the location of the existing building and the use of the shed. The shed is to be consistent with the building. And then the planning board, based on a limited review, passed a motion that did not identify any significant adverse impacts that cannot be mitigated with the current project proposal. And that was passed unanimously on 4/20/2021.
Evening, Tom Jarrett of Jarrett Engineers. I'm here representing Paul and Joan Lorenz. They've owned AutoFix and basically an auto repair shop in this location for many, many years. And probably all of you know they keep a very, very clean and neat site. They're great neighbors. Part of the reason they need the shed is storage for equipment, materials for the business, but also for the decorations they put out on holidays, which many of you have probably seen. The site is a triangular configuration, so it's very difficult to put a shed on here. It's in a compliant location without being obtrusive to Quaker Road, the view from Quaker Road, so we thought this was a good location, accessible and relatively hidden, adjacent to the National Grid right-of-way. Unfortunately, the triangular shape of the site means we need a setback variance. Now, the current building is 2 feet from the line. This shed would be 10 feet from the line, and the shed would be designed to blend in with the aesthetics of the existing building. So we hope you find it an acceptable variance, an acceptable proposal.
Do we have questions of the applicant?
And my question is that gonna be big enough, that shed, with all his decorations that he puts out there? He doesn't.
Not to be flip, but last night at the planning board meeting, I said we wanted to make it an 8-story shed as opposed to a 1-story shed, but no, it should be large enough. They considered it long and hard before they came to me, and I think it's large enough for them.
And they should be commended. They keep that property really nice, and they definitely a plus to the neighborhood.
Are you looking for a free motor job or something?
Oil change, just an oil change would be nice.
It'll show up in the minutes.
Other questions?
Yes, you haven't said very much. It was a short presentation.
Plus the property behind him.
He's not a liar.
Yeah, he doesn't get paid by
Plus the property behind him can't be built on, because
I
that's,
can get very verbose, but you don't want that.
No, thank you very much. No,
the property behind him is owned by the electrical, right? It's an easement, so there's never anything will be built there.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct.
all good.
along that diagonal line, you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's
That's
electrical
an
line.
extra grid right away. Those
it'll be.
Yep, easy project.
Other questions? So a public hearing has been advertised, and so at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anybody in the audience has input to this particular project. Invite anybody on the outside who has input to give us a call at 518-761-8225. And Roy, do we have any written correspondence on this particular project?
No?
So we just have to wait for 2 minutes here.
How you doing?
Good.
You keeping busy, Tom?
Like most of us, there's an awful lot of pressure out there with property transfers and, you know, all kinds of things going on.
Amazing time.
And there's a lot of wastewater pressure too with the new transfer laws on wastewater.
Yeah. So you don't have the phone number written down anywhere now, you remember it?
Used to be right there, so
That's
it's
right.
lucky I got a good memory, right? I'm still young.
I'm impressed.
I keep moving the age of young or old up.
Yeah.
Good job. I said, good job. Right, I haven't mentioned you.
Now I can't touch it, so. Depends on how many conditions you come up with.
By the way, what's the granddaughter's name?
Hazel. Hazel.
Hazel. Nice.
So at this particular time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with John.
Yeah, I think it's a good project. They're not asking for much, like I said, especially it's not buildable property behind them, so it's not going to affect any neighbors. And they do a nice job of their property, so I'd be on board with the project as is.
Jim?
There's not going to be any effect on anybody with this project being approved here this evening. Again, it's from the property line from the National Grid right away on the backside there anyway, so I'd be in favor of it.
Michelle?
I'm also in favor. It fits in with the character of the neighborhood.
Kathy?
Yeah, I think they put it in the most logical location.
Ron?
I'm also in favor of the project as proposed.
Roy?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the project. This is one of the most impeccably kept commercial properties in the town. I would be in favor of this one.
And I'm just amazed to hear about National Grid, but they still kept their name on real estate that they own. We don't get to say that too much. Or Niagara Mohawk, excuse me, that's not Niagara Mohawk property, right? So I'm in favor of
Technically,
it.
it's listed that way, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, you don't hear old NIMO anymore, so I'm in favor of the project. So I'm going to ask Michelle for a motion here.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve area variance number 24-2021 for Paul Lorenz, 78 Quaker Road. The applicant requests relief for setbacks to install a shed on a commercial property in a commercial intensive zone CI. And let's see, the shed is to be located 10 feet from the property line where a 25-foot setback is required. So in making the determination, we considered that an undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood, nor a detriment to nearby property, because as a shed on a commercial property, it fits into the character of the neighborhood. Feasible alternatives were considered by the board and deemed not possible. The requested variance is not substantial, although it appears so. The 10-foot request or 15-foot request, it borders property that's an easement for, or I'm sorry, that's owned by National Grid or Niagara Mohawk. So it really is of no consequence. So there is not an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood, and the alleged difficulty is self-created. In addition, the board finds that the benefits to the applicant from granting requested variance would outweigh the resulting detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community. We also find that the variance request under consideration is the minimum necessary. So based on the above findings, I make a motion to approve area variance 24-2021.
So we have a motion, can I have a second, please?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Ron, call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hayward,
Yes.
Mr. Underwood,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhl,
Yes.
Mr. Hankel,
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin,
Yes.
Mr. Yuriko,
Yes.
Mr. McCabe.
Yes.
Thank you much. Have a good night.
So our next application is AV 22, 2021, Ronald Morehouse, 66 Ohio Avenue.
The applicant proposes to place an existing 980 square foot mobile home on a 6,000 square foot lot. The project includes connection to municipal water and installation of a septic system. Relief, site work includes placement for the mobile home driveway and the installation of the septic. Relief requested is for setbacks, and that's per section 179-3-040 dimensional requirements. The mobile home is to be placed 10 feet from the rear property line where a 15-foot setback is required. The project may be considered to have little impact on the neighboring properties. The feasible alternatives may be limited due to the lot size and location of the proposed septic. The relief may be considered minimal relevant to the code. The relief is 5 feet. The project as proposed may be considered to have minimal impact on the environmental conditions of the site or area, and the project as proposed may be considered self-created. Staff comments, the applicant proposes placement of an 840 square foot mobile home on an existing 4,500 square foot parcel. The plans note the placement of the home. The applicant has included photos of the mobile home to be placed on the parcel.
How we doing?
Well, I'm Donald Pigeon. I represent Mr. Morehouse. And with the exception of the last one with the Tom, you guys have had a pretty easy night. So we got you going.
That's good of you.
It's a tough one.
That's good of you.
We're asking for, the 5-foot variance for the mobile home. As you notice, the garage, I believe that's a concrete garage structure.
It's 6,000.
On the property to the east of the, right in our rear property line. There's only 4.8 at this current time from his property line. So, I mean, everything seemed to fit nicely on the lot. We've got the mobile home, the porches, the septic system, placed, nicely on the lot within code, as far as I know. And it seems as though we're not really disrupting the neighborhood over there much at all.
So we just have a little discrepancy here. In one place, we say that the lot is 6,000 square feet, and in another place, we say it's 4,500.
It's 6,000.
Yeah, it looks like 6,000 is the correct.
It is 6,000. Where do you see 2,500?
Oh, it's on another document that we have.
Oh,
Okay. Do we have questions of the applicant?
No.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
So at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing and see if there's anybody in the audience who would like to provide input on this particular project. Invite anybody on the outside who'd like to comment to give us a call at 518-761-8225 and check with Roy and see if there's any written correspondence here.
Yeah, there's one, I own the property on Ohio Avenue next to the property Ronald Morehouse is applying for a zoning variance. Because the proposed trailer or driveway will be closer to my property line than originally planned, I would ask that Mr. Morehouse install a 6-foot tall, maintenance-free fence to my satisfaction on the property line between his property and mine, running from Ohio Avenue to the rear of his property. If this request can be forwarded to the zoning board and read into the minutes, it would be most appreciated. And that's Bill and Mary Jane Canale. That's it.
So that, normally it doesn't come under our purview, or I suppose it could, but normally I would think that that would take place with the planning board.
So if this individual is asking for it to start at the beginning of this property on Ohio Avenue and return that entire side, you can't put a 6-foot fence in the front portion of that yard.
Without a variance.
So if that, right, so if the applicant were to put some vegetation at that front line, or if the applicant wants to do, instead of a fence, say he wants to plant vegetation along that property line, I don't know, I mean, that's between the two of them, but the fence itself, the only way that the fence could be placed on that property, the way it's being described, it would have to come back for a variance.
Yeah. So,
But it could be a 4-foot fence.
But it couldn't be a privacy fence.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't do any.
But Canale's got property on both sides of this.
Well, I don't think.
So
they live there either.
what is he really saying?
I don't think they live there anyway.
Saying he wants a fence.
Exactly, I don't get it. Look at the.
Yeah, the other building's a
So they're
business.
looking, yeah, so the fence that they're proposing is the one along the new proposed driveway area, and that's the way I read it. So it's on I would call it the south side of
South side?
the south side, and so you couldn't put a fence.
How close were you planning on putting that driveway to that line?
I'm gonna guess that's 6 feet, maybe 6, 7 feet there.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the setback for the septic tank, yeah, probably about 6 feet. But, I mean, the whole neighborhood, the driveways are right on it.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Yeah, it's,
we're not disconforming, that's for sure.
you know, the lots are small there.
So at this particular time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to hold the board, and I'm going to start with Roy.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the project as presented.
And then I'm going to ask Ron what he thinks about it.
Well, once you get it straightened out, I'll tell you, right? It should be 980, it shouldn't be 840, right? The description of the proposed project is the right thing, 980 square feet on 6,000 square foot property.
Right.
Not down, but where it says in staff comments. I have no problem with the project, the way it is. Okay.
Oh, I see what,
Right.
yeah, but that doesn't agree with the next staff comments, right, which refer to the 6,000 and the 980.
Yep.
So there's one page of the staff comments that's out of line, and we're going to blame that on Laura.
It's Laura's error? Okay. That's one.
So Ron, are you happy now? Now that we blamed Laura?
No, you're not supposed to talk. This is our turn. Thank you. No, I'm in favor of the project as presented.
Okay. So now we'll go to John.
Yeah, all those lots on the state streets are fairly thin and small, and there'd be no other way of putting a mobile home of that size on any of the properties without having some setback, so I would be for it. It's a very small amount of setback, so I'd be for the project as is.
Jim?
Yeah, the project's been well thought out. We only got one little setback that we're dealing with. You can't make mountains out of molehills.
Thank you. Michelle?
I'm in agreement with the rest of the board members.
Kathy?
Yes, it's a minimal request, so I am also in favor.
And I too support the project. I think it will clean up what's basically a real cluttered area now, so I think it's a good deal. So I'm going to ask Ron to make a motion here.
Another one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, you've been away. It's about
I
time
know,
you catch up.
I'm trying to catch up. I would like to recommend that we approve area variance 22-21, Ronald O. Moore House at 66 Ohio Avenue. As per the draft prepared by staff, I believe that there is not an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood nor a detriment to the nearby properties, as this variance request is blending into the neighborhood. Feasible alternatives are really limited. They've been considered and are reasonable, and we have included it in a minimum request. The requested variance is not substantial, as again, because of the lot size. There is not an adverse impact to the physical or environmental condition of the neighborhood or district. The alleged difficulty could be considered self-created only, but because of the lot size, we really can't say it's self-created. In addition, the board finds the benefit to the applicant from granting the requested variance would outweigh the resulting detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood community. Also, the board finds that this variance request under consideration is the minimum necessary. With that in mind, I want to recommend that we approve area variance AV 22-21.
So we have a motion. Could I have a second, please? Michelle, call the vote, please.
Mr. Hankel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhl?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward? Mr. McCabe?
Yes. Congratulations, you have a project.
Thank you, board.
There you go.
You want any of your plans back? You want any of the plans?
I'll collect
Yeah,
those.
he said if you
Yeah.
weren't gonna, reserve this stratum.
Don, if I could take some of those for the final plan set, so I need 3, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I
we
need
can
3
get
sets.
more.
What does she want?
Survey.
I need at least 3 of them.
I
Okay.
guess somebody didn't proofread that. I'll tell you.
Well, see, the trouble is, it was right on 2 documents, but not on...
So there's no meeting next week?
No, but going back to that, going back to the lake one, that's, I thought a separate letter approving that system had to be with that application. They couldn't accept this application.
Okay, so I picked up the paperwork.
So are you closing your meeting, or do you have other topics to discuss?
That's right. But that letter, I mean, that letter,
Excuse me,
they can't come to this board unless the
Is that
letter.
all? Because I was saying, when I picked up my
Am I
packet,
right?
it was only one.
are you meeting, is your meeting completed? You want to,
So at this particular time, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.